Hi. Hang on, I'm getting a step. Hi. How are you? All right, so before we get into this, I want to establish my primary credential, namely, I was you. Who here has been an RA? See you. Any thetas? Hello. We can do the handshake later. Who played intramural football, flag football? Nobody? They don't have that anymore? Who has kissed more than one brother of the Lambda Chi Alpha fraternity? Who here got 1090 on their SATs and still managed to back their way into a University of Richmond degree? So here's the rub, as I see it. Optimism, we are told by researchers and social scientists, is required for progress. But, of course, the world has not exactly been teeming with good news since you entered consciousness. I apologize for all of us and all of it. You deserve better. However, and this is a bit of a zag, if you look again, there is better. But bad news sells, and we evolved to overweight the negative, so better doesn't get much airtime until now. Ladies and gentlemen of the class of 2022, may I give you 67 legit reasons to be optimistic about the world you're entering. In 14 minutes or less. In addition to, number one, in addition to using technology to make pimple-popping videos, clever, caring people got money directly into the hands of besieged Ukrainians through Airbnb bookings. And that's to say nothing of Donors Choose, which has processed $1.3 billion in gifts for school projects, or Khan Academy, which has created a free global classroom used by 70 million people. The two biggest drivers of life satisfaction are free: time spent in nature and meaningful connection to others. Number 6, this is for the ladies. The year I graduated, women under 30 made 74 cents on the dollar for doing the exact same job as a man. Now, women your age make 93 cents on the dollar. Unless you live in New York City or Washington, D.C., where you'll make a tiny bit more. And if you're down to live in Morgantown, West Virginia, you'll make 14% more. This one is for the men, and stick with me here. You may be aware that you create 1,500 sperm per heartbeat. You need vitamin A to do this. Going to clinical trials later this year is a partial vitamin A inhibitor that is shown to be 99% effective in preventing pregnancy with 0 side effects. And it has never been more important to prevent unwanted pregnancies. Speaking of science, in the winter of 2020, about 5 minutes after a virus exploded in Wuhan, China, scientists around the world began the urgent collaboration that gave us, in record time, the mRNA vaccines that allow us to see and hug each other today. Speaking of medical advances, here's number 10. The cancer I had 18 years ago with 2 kids in diapers would have killed me a generation ago. But as I finished chemo, a drug became available, and now here I am, worried less about the health of my breasts than the length. My mother-in-law, who I love, lives cautiously with a typically fatal congenital heart defect. For about 10 years now, doctors have been able to surgically correct that defect in utero, going through the mom into a heart that is a little bigger than a thumbnail. Here's a few things I've used just in the last couple days in order to be standing here right now that we did not have in 1989 when I graduated. GPS, EasyPass, podcasts, whitening strips, flat irons, and Spanx. Because let me tell you, West Hampton College was a lot of bad perms and panty lines in the 80s. Speaking of the 80s, there was not one single openly gay person in my high school or college. And now there's a center and a director and a lounge and clubs like Kaleidoscope and Shades of Pride, flags and parades and Pete Buttigieg. That's 20. Here's 4 more. Oat milk, Impossible Burgers, tofu, and many a nut butter, which means that we can assume, nut butter. Didn't see that coming. We can assume that there will be more popular, profitable ways to feed the world that don't burden the planet. Speaking of the planet, a 12-year-old I know put on her best purple dress and pitched her parents' New York City condo board to start composting, and they did it. Number 26, battery technology is moving away from ion and cobalt and lithium towards sodium and sulfur, which are abundant, benign, and cheap. So if you think electric vehicles and wind farms are mainstream now, wait till we cross that finish line. Speaking of sustainability, in the last decade, University of Richmond decreased greenhouse gas emissions by 66%, and last year, Spider Solar produced enough electricity to power 2,500 homes for a year, which points us to this prediction. During your central work years, the energy source for all humanity might well be a shift to clean, quiet, free, reliable sunshine. Here's 6 all-time global lows: infant mortality, poverty, famine, HIV/AIDS, violence, and hours spent doing housework. And here are 5 all-time US highs: literacy, voting, donations, poetry reading, jogging, which is what we used to call running, an increase in math and reading scores, which Thomas Kane, a Harvard professor of education and economics, says may be the most important social policy success of the last half century that nobody seems to be aware of. You don't believe me? I have footnotes. Okay, no one will argue with these. Dolly Parton, Harry Styles, Greta Thunberg, Ketanji Brown Jackson, Zelensky. That gets us to 46. Here's a round of 7. The continued popularity of Sesame Street and ABBA. The continued improvement of car safety and stand-up comedy. Toilet paper is softer. Salaries are transparent, and there are no more change fees on airlines. Oh, and residence halls 1, 2, and 3. Number 57, for the unhappily bald dads among us, some Stanford guys got hair to grow on a mouse. So I'm guessing you are 3 to 4 years away from a nice, youthful loaf. Number 58, the word is out. Diverse groups perform better. Thus, every metric here is on the rise, from international students, students of color, the percentage of kids on financial aid. Number 59, despite tremendous pressure, the systems that protect our incredible experiment of a government by the people, for the people, are still holding. And this is unconfirmed at the time of this speech, but I believe you are getting Fruity Pebbles in the dining hall. We are destigmatizing a whole lot of things, from therapy, who's done some? I don't mind raising my hand. To gender fluidity, to neurodiversity. 10,000 people and counting have added hashtag dyslexic thinking to their list of LinkedIn skills. And not to overstate it, but destigmatizing saves lives. In macroeconomic news, the boomer generation is about to be eclipsed by the millennials, who just happen to be tipping into their most active consumer years, buying big ticket items like houses and cars, and this is excellent for job creation. Here's one specifically for the parents. Growth happens. I once smoked cigarettes and watched 3 hours of soap operas every day, and lost many pairs of prescription eyeglasses and driver's license, and sometimes I drank too much, and other times I littered And oftentimes I wasn't that nice to my mom. And now I'm a model citizen and a newly minted doctor of letters. That puts us at 66, so let's pause and ask, how did all this happen? People, not unlike you, refused to sit around admiring the problem. They irrigated and planted. They came out of the closet. They got advanced degrees. They lobbied for equal pay. They developed laparoscopic surgical tools and robotic arms. They shared their data and collaborated in worldwide clinical trials. They made their parents get solar panels and helped them recycle their e-waste. They said unpopular things out loud, like, I think we better stop pretending these cigarettes don't cause cancer. They read the local voter's guide and made hard choices. They went to board meetings and invested in new businesses, new stories, new leadership. They donated bone marrow, money, and mind share. They iterated, collaborated, negotiated for decades. They fell 8 times, but they got up 9. I'm not negating the news. I see what you see, I hear what you hear, and I'm worried too. I'm just augmenting the story with other true things. Which brings me to this. May I suggest your greatest act of agency is the minute-by-minute choice of where you place your attention. What they did or what you did. What's wrong, what's right, the people who have more, the people who have less, the phone in your hand, or the person right in front of you. Optimism is rational and essential. It's the precious resource. Optimists create the future because they see problems as temporary and specific, not pervasive, not permanent. Which brings me to reason 67 for optimism. You. Clever, gritty, ready, open, flexible you. Armed with this education and this network, you will be enough. I mean, it's an epic journey, which means tragedy and periods of hopelessness, peril, and cruelty, and, stupidity, and mischances, but also astonishing achievement, love, and beauty. It's there, I promise. Look for it, study it, and make more of it.